You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis. Welcome to the show, Mish.
Hey, pleasure to be on here. We got a head-on collision going on with Germany and Greece. So far, the market seems to think there's going to be an 11th hour, a 12th hour, a 13th hour. Is that possible? Agreement? But it looks to me like no, and actually I hope the answer is no.
Why would you hope the answer is no?
I think it's in the best interest of Greece to get the hell out and, prove to the world that, that debt runs two ways. Yeah, Greece had an obligation to pay this thing back, but Germany and the rest of Europe had an obligation not to make stupid loans. And when you make stupid loans, the remedy for that is bankruptcy. The people of Greece ought not be suffering for what their prior government did. And the way to remedy that situation is a default. And Germany insists that it's not going to pay anything. In fact, the rest of the Eurozone insists that it has no culpability in all of this, that this is all Greece's fault. Well, yes, Greece made some mistakes, but so did the lenders. And requiring the citizens of Greece to have a current account surplus of 3 to 4.5% for the next 20 years to pay back loans that should never have been made. I don't accept that, and that's the reason why I think they should just default and let the chips fall where they may.
If Greece does default, is that going to be a disaster for the world banking system, or is this something that they could absorb?
I don't think it's going to be an immediate disaster for the world banking system, but the question here is what it means for contagion purposes. Germany thinks that they've got this whole thing ring-fenced, that that they're prepared for what's called a Grexit, blah, blah, blah. Well, I just look up the responsibilities just out of the ESFF alone, and I see that Spain's exposure is 18 billion euros. Its total exposure to Greece is about 33 billion. Germany's exposure to the EFSF is 41 billion. Its overall exposure is 72 billion. And Slovakia, which complained today, amusingly, about not wanting to, have to pay anything. Well, its exposure is $1.5 to $2.2 billion euros. So, all these people act as if there is not going to be a further haircut, are just simply mistaken. So then the question is, what happens? Actually, the best case scenario for Greece is actually the worst case scenario for the Eurozone. If Greece exits and runs a current account surplus, a primary account surplus, that's a current account surplus minus anything they need to pay back debt and interest on debts, if they can do that, then they're not going to be dependent on foreign capital. They simply renege on their debt and on interest on debt, and as long as they can get via taxes all the money they need to fund the government, they can still stay on the euro. No one can force them out. And that would put this whole, euro charade, would bring it all right to a start from the beginning and impose upon the Eurozone an overall debt solution for the euro, assuming they want to stay on it. And if they don't, then fine, we can at least have an orderly breakup of the Eurozone. I believe the best way would be to have Germany leave and let the rest of the countries do whatever the hell they want with it. So, but we'll see. First things first. The Eurozone has a tendency for these 13th hour compromises that really just kicked the can further down the road. But I suggested in my post today that this might have been all part of Greek game playing, that that had Germany really given them everything they wanted, they would have been happy. But just in case, they pretended to be willing to compromise themselves, and by doing so, they can actually blame Germany when things go wrong. And Germany certainly came out today and issued a 3-point ultimatum to Greece to request an official extension, to promise to complete the current program. In other words, no changes in it. What is that with a negotiating stance? And then commit to negotiating any changes, but with bailout monitors. In other words, with the Troika, with Greece, with the Eurozone, looking over their shoulder every step of the way. In fact, Greece is the only one that's shown any propensity here to bend at all. Germany not at all. And I've said all along that Greece's best move is to default and get it over with. They're now able to do that now because they're running a primary account surplus. The problem for Syriza and Tsipras is, well, if he gives in and does all the social programs he wants, they will no longer have a primary account surplus. So one way or another, there's also going to be some compromises on Greece. Either they have to give up the euro, or the new leaders have to renege on promises. So one way or another, Greece is going to have to renege on some of the things it wants to do. The Eurozone, one way or another, is going to have to give up its demand that says, well, there's not going to be any further haircuts. So I believe that it's just better to get this all out on the table, and the best way to do that right now is to have Greece leave, and we'll work out the details later.
Well, I was thinking, too, if Greece left and had its original currency again, the drachma, it probably wouldn't be worth very much, which would make holidays in Greece very affordable for everybody else.
Well,
and
that
that's
would
their primary
be
business.
A very, very tough situation. Inflation in Greece, depending on how low the drachma sunk, might be 20, 30, 40% or higher. If they can stay on the euro at least for a while, and a while would in my way of thinking be at least a year, or at least 6 months, they can have a more orderly return. If they immediately return to the drachma, it is absolutely going to plunge. Yeah, Greece becomes less expensive, but all of its imports for oil and everything else it needs, Greece doesn't produce a lot of what it needs in its own economy, so that would be very, very painful, actually, on Greece. Actually, there's going to be pain all around. The question is how to minimize that pain. I think the way for Greece to minimize the pain on itself is to try and run that primary account surplus and stay on the euro at the same time. And if Spain sees that Greece can do this, you know what? It might decide to do the same thing. And if Spain were to do that, and the political party in Spain is now leading all the oppositions, Podemos has promised actually to leave, that one of its tenets is to leave the Eurozone. So the contagion that Germany thinks it's going to contain by not giving Greece anything is actually more than anything likely to spread that contagion if Greece can manage to do things correctly. We're going to likely see Spain and or Italy follow. That's the end of the Eurozone.
We'll have more with Mish Shedlock right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
Welcome back. We're speaking to Mish Shedlock. Mish, I'm wondering if Greece does not negotiate a deal, or if they do get a deal that sweetens things for them a little bit, will Italy and Spain ask for the same kind of treatment and again start dragging the whole system down?
I don't think that they're going to get much of an agreement. The Germany has indicated, unless it's bluffing, and I don't think so, and I don't think Greece is bluffing here either, that the only thing Germany was willing to negotiate was talking about, forcing Greece from having a primary account surplus of 4.5% next year, and Syriza's proposal is 1.5%. That is a pretty big gap. And in other words, Greece has to have a surplus in its spending of 3.5 to 4.5% a year, and then all the while that money is just going to do nothing. It's not going to help Greece. It's going to pay back $245 billion worth of bailout agreements, and all these bailout agreements they did not bail out Greece at all. It's like throwing someone an anchor and calling it a lifesaver. All they did was increase these loans to Greece to make it even harder for Greece to pay back. And that's what these things do. Greece is in a situation now where it's actually prepared to leave, and Germany thinks that it's prepared for Greece to leave. I think Germany's wrong.
I've heard Russia has offered Greece some aid. Is Russia trying to expand into the Soviet Union again?
No. And I don't think Russia is in a position to help Greece much. However, Greece is a significant member of NATO, and the U.S. has some very significant bases there. Greece would be in a position to say, you know what, you want these bases, pony up. Of course, those bases and those arrangements probably bring Greece some money just in spending that happens on the side. However, would the U.S. like to see those bases and air flight agreements and other things, canceled? I don't think so. Now, I'm not even sure that Greece could do that. It's still part of the EU. It would still be part of the Eurozone. It would have to abide by some of those treaties. But one thing Greece did, do was threaten to block more sanctions on Russia. And as long as it stays as part of the Eurozone, it certainly could do that, which would, because of rules in the Eurozone, it takes 100% agreement from every country to negotiate trade changes or sanctions. Greece would be able to block further sanctions on Russia, and I believe would do that, and in turn would probably get some favors from Russia, perhaps even so we'll see. So, but those are the additional cards at play, and it's actually Greece that has the upper hand. Greece holds those cards. It can block something that 18 want by itself. There's 19 Eurozone countries, so they all have to agree, and Greece says, nope, that kills the deal. So Greece has something the other 18 want, and it can use that card at some point very effectively, and I think we'll use that card at some point effectively. And yes, Russia is part of that card.
Mish, anything else you wanted to throw in on that?
That's pretty much it. We'll see if this thing isn't resolved tomorrow or over the weekend. And I actually, like I said, started off with, I hope it's not, because I do believe that it's in the best interest of the citizens of Greece to, say goodbye to this agreement. We'll see. But with Germany and Greece both digging in their heels, it seems like, well, the market's pretty complacent here, Jim. But we've been through this before. Every one of these 11th hour things before has been a yawner that they all, agree to kick the can further down the road. But we'll see. I'm hoping this is the time someone steps up to the plate and says, you know what, we're not going to kick the can down the road anymore.
Thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Pleasure to be on the show.
My guest has been Mike Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis. You're listening to HowStreet.com Radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.